I want to correct something that happened on an earlier show because I didn't know the context, and I want to tell you what the context is, okay? Alan Grayson in Florida had run an ad that I said was strong and tough and that I liked. Let me remind you what the ad is. Let's run that. It's clip number 5.
Alan Grayson and I approve this message.
Religious fanatics try to take away our freedom in Afghanistan, in Iran, and right here in Central Florida.
Wives, submit yourself to your own husband.
Daniel Webster wants to impose his radical fundamentalism on us.
She should submit to me. That's in the Bible.
Webster tried to deny battered women medical care and the right to divorce their abusers.
Submit to me.
He wants to force raped women to bear the child.
Submit to me.
Taliban Dan Webster, hands off our bodies and our laws.
All right, so, I mean, that was strong, right? When Grayson comes for you, he's going to come strong, right? And I like to add because it was Democrats fighting back. And look, if this guy's got radical positions, why on God's green earth wouldn't you point them out? The problem is I had not seen the whole context of what Dan Webster was talking about there. Now, they showed that on MSNBC later, and I want to show it to you here. And then I'll tell you my new opinion on this. Let's look at Dan Webster's full clip here in context.
If I have verses for my wife, don't pick the ones that say she should submit to me. That's in the Bible, but pick the ones that you're supposed to do. So instead, you'd love your wife, even as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. And as opposed to wives, submit yourself to your own husband.
Oh, come on. No. In the full context, there's no question. He's saying, don't pick the verse in the Bible that says, submit to me. So, that's Breitbarting it a little bit, okay? Now, Grayson could have made that point because he's right on the substance of the things that Dan Webster proposes, the legislation, etc. But he shouldn't have used that clip. Totally out of context, and I got to rule against him. No. Look, you know me, I love the strength, right? And I like going after them. But there's a line. In the end, we don't want to be like them, right? And I don't mind, going guns barrel. Do I have that? I don't know. Anyway, as Phil Davidson would say, double-barreled, guns loaded, right? But you got to be right with the facts. You can't play loosey-goosey with the facts. And that I think is out of context, and he shouldn't have done the ad that way. And you know what? It takes away from the credibility of the ad when the substance of the legislation that he's criticizing is right. So I don't think it's even effective because of that. Now, all everybody's talking about is that the clip was taken out of context. JR.
And actually, I saw a little piece of, because that was part of the interview he had on MSNBC, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that, I don't know, I kind of wish he'd said was, yeah, okay, maybe even admit it. Yeah, fine, it's out of context. But she said, but why do you have to do, she kept asking, why do you have to do this? Why do you have to do this? Well, would you be talking about it right now if I hadn't? If I just point out the 5 things that he introduces that are ridiculously radical against women, now it's a shame I have to do this to get your attention about it. But now it still is you're on the wrong side as far as your ad. But you're never getting your point across if one side is lying constantly, and as we know, they do take things out of context, and you're just telling the truth.
Yeah, I hear you, JR. But I thought the same thing. Don't get me wrong. What Grayson's great at is what Republicans are good at, which is changing the conversation. Because now the conversation is all about how radical is Dan Webster, how anti-women is Dan Webster. Now, even if he proves that he's not as radical as Grayson is saying, he's still implanted in everybody's head Taliban Dan Webster. So on a political level, mission accomplished in that sense. But at the same time, I saw that same interview, JR, obviously, and Grayson also appears unlikable, though, there, because he doesn't admit it, and he's busted, and he won't, and he has taken it out of context. So he hurts himself a little bit, too, which, by the way, Republicans do all the time. They go on the attack, they clobber the Democrats, and then meanwhile, they lower their positive ratings as well. Now, generally speaking, it's worked out for them, although they've gone over the cliff on it, obviously, and jumped the shark. So I think you could have still gotten everybody's attention by hitting them super hard just without using that clip. And for me, the bottom line is, even if I agreed with it, like that it was a good political strategy, as an objective commentator, I say, no, can't have it, because we're interested in the truth. And that clip was not true.